James Comey, talking about his firing from the FBI tonight, says he sees potential obstruction of justice by the president, but also says all Americans should be gratified by the no collusion conclusion. Let's bring in Fox News senior political analyst Brit Hume for reaction. What do you think about all the fallout the last couple of days as people are now putting their own spin on the Barr letter and the Mueller report?
Well, people don't seem to know whether to try to spin the Barr letter or to denounce the Barr letter. My own sense about that, Shannon, is this. I think we'll probably trust the Barr letter as being an accurate representation, and broadly speaking, of what is in the Mueller report. For this reason. First of all, Barr is a guy who didn't need this job. He's got, he's had a long career. He's been Attorney General before. He has a good reputation. I don't think he's going to put that reputation at risk for some to spin a report whose contents are going to become known anyway.
Right.
I mean, that would be an act of insanity. So I don't think that people who are pinning their hopes on that ought to keep those hopes up very high.
The former FBI Director Comey also had this to say about what the Mueller report does to shed some light on the FBI.
It establishes, I hope, to all people, no matter where they are on the spectrum, that the FBI is not corrupt, not a nest of vipers and spies, but an honest group of people trying to find out what is true.
Is that the way you see the report?
I don't know how much the report is going to have to say about the performance of the FBI. It seems to me that's in the hands of others right now. But that wouldn't necessarily be the conclusion I would draw from the outcome of this investigation. I think that by and large that is true about the FBI. But James Comey and those who work closely with him do not fit that description, in my opinion. I mean, that's, there's a bunch of people got fired and with good reason. And Comey was one of them. So, I suspect he may hope that because he thinks if people start thinking that, they may think better of him.
Well, we're still waiting on the Inspector General's report about what was going on with some of these FISA applications and some other things. So we're waiting on that. But in the meantime, across town at the CIA, John Brennan was the CIA director for years. And Rand Paul said today this. He says, breaking, a high-level source tells me it was Brennan who insisted that the unverified and fake Steele dossier be included in the intelligence report. Brennan should be asked to testify under oath in Congress ASAP. And a lot of folks say if that's the case, he immediately gave credibility to the dossier as the CIA director by including it in that intel assessment.
Well, I don't doubt that. But Brennan's problem now is, it seems to me, is that he has exposed himself as such an ardent Trump hater. And, his projections about this, his read on how the Mueller investigation was going to turn out, both those things have turned out to be all wrong. And he's had now at least to acknowledge that he thought there'd be more than there turned out to be. Well, no kidding. And this man Brennan behaved like no other former intelligence chief I've ever seen behave. I mean, I cannot imagine, for example, William Webster, who headed both the FBI and CIA at one point, ever making the kind of partisan accusations he's made against his president. He called him a traitor.
Yeah, treasonous behavior.
Yeah, I mean, treasonous behavior. That is an extreme assertion that no responsible former intelligence chief should make unless he is prepared to present hard evidence that it's true, which he manifestly has not.
Okay, so obviously the issues with collusion were not proven. The special counsel says no one connected to the Trump campaign. We didn't see it, according to the Barr letter. And as you said, he'd have no reason to mischaracterize it because he knows the rest of this is going to come out. But for a lot of Democrats, that's off the checklist now, and it's on to impeachment. And some of them today are continuing. The leadership doesn't want them to talk about it. They're continuing to talk about it. Congressman Al Green, Democrat from Texas, they've already voted a couple of times on his impeachment plans. Here's what he says.
A president does not have to commit a crime to be impeached. We have, unfortunately, allowed some persons to conflate what the special counsel was doing, what Mr. Mueller was doing, with what the House can do.
Yeah, a much lower level than making a legal case on the issues.
Well, in the end, impeachment is a political question. But it's also the case, Mr. Green notwithstanding, that the Constitution speaks of high crimes and misdemeanors. So that's the reason why people sort of get the idea that you have to commit a crime in order to be impeached as president. It's not true. A high crime for Congress is for impeachment purposes, whatever Congress says it is. But that's kind of where we are. Let me make one other point, though. Not everybody's given up on collusion.
That's true.
Adam Schiff is still banging on about it, and is tonight. And, people keep asserting, well, what Mueller found was that what Trump did didn't rise to the level of a crime or that he couldn't make the case. That's not exactly what the summary said. The summary said he didn't find any collusion. He didn't say any criminal collusion or anything else. It said no collusion. And there's a quote from the Mueller report: did not find cooperation, collaboration between Trump.
Despite repeated attempts.
Despite, yes, and it went on to say that the Russians had tried to seduce the Trump campaign and failed. So that's pretty definitive.
That doesn't mean the search for other possible trouble for the president will end here. So that's the next chapter that we go into. In the meantime, Brit, always great to have you.
Thanks, Shannon. Glad to be here.